Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is Stage 4 of Dauphiné 2025. If you saw Stages 1 through 3, you know this has been an exciting first week of the 25 edition of Dauphiné, and today is the race of truth. At 17.4 kilometers, I'll call it about 11 miles in length. One time check was 7 kilometers ago on today's course, but realistically, you have to look at the climb in just about the middle of the course. It's going to start with 10 kilometers to go, 1.8 kilometers long at 8.5%. But it's going to be bookend after the descent of 2 flat sections that'll highlight this 17.4 kilometer course. So we know when we start looking at Remco Evenepoel, because he's in the rainbow band jersey and because he's the current Olympic time trial champion, we know Remco Evenepoel is the favorite to win today's race. But there's big questions for the Belgian rider from Soudal Quickstep because he has to make up 1 minute and 17 seconds on Ivan Romeo that won yesterday Stage 3 from that breakaway of 13 riders. Now, that breakaway of 13 riders has some other general classification favorites in there because Lipowitz is high up on the general classification. He's got to make up just about 25 seconds. And Matteo Jorgenson, who was in that group of 13 riders, well, he's got to make up about 29 seconds on today's stage if he wants to get himself into the race leader's yellow jersey at the end of Stage 4. We don't expect the riders that were in the break yesterday to be able to win today's race, but could they put themselves in yellow? That's a question. When we look at the 3 big general classification favorites, there's no doubt about it on anyone's list. It's Tadej Pogacar, Jonas Vingegaard, and Remco Evenepoel. Remco Evenepoel is the Olympic time trial champion, as I already told you, but Tadej Pogacar wins Tour de France time trials, and Jonas Vingegaard's been known to win some classic Tour de France time trials back in his day too, where he beat Tadej Pogacar, who put over a minute into Wout van Aert, but Jonas Vingegaard put more than a minute into Tadej Pogacar when I'm talking about that 23 edition of the Tour de France. So there's been spectacular TTs by all 3 of the general classification favorites here at Dauphiné. This is the first stepping stone to see who has really good form. Let's get into the stage. Once we see the cameras come on, it's Tobias Foss up there that's throwing down the fastest time at 22 minutes that'll put himself in the hot seat. The next rider to leave the ramp that we want to focus on is Remco Evenepoel. Remco Evenepoel's flying out there on the course, and we see him picking up some riders. When he comes through the first time check, he's 17 seconds faster than the time of Tobias Foss. Remco Evenepoel is not going to increase his time to Tobias Foss, but he's going to keep that race lead when he crosses the line, 3 seconds up on Tobias Foss. So Remco Evenepoel from FDJ is in the hot seat. Next rider we want to pay attention to is going to be the American rider Matteo Jorgenson when he's leaving the ramp. Jorgenson riding for Visma bikes out there throwing down on the pedals, and when he comes through the first time check, he's 12 seconds up. He's going to keep the power on the pedals going all the way into the finish of the stage, where he's 28 seconds up on the fastest time of Remco Evenepoel. Now, Visma bike riders in the hot seat right now, but we know there's still some favorite riders to leave the ramp. We go back and start looking at some of the guys, the favorites, as they were coming into the race pit before they're leaving the ramp, and we see it's Jonas Vingegaard up there that's still warming up. We see Matteo Jorgenson in the picture there, who's got a shot at putting himself in the race leader's yellow jersey still, and Remco Evenepoel in the rainbow band jersey sitting down getting ready to go. He'll grab his bike, he'll start taking it over to the ramp, and then Remco Evenepoel's going to set off. Once he does, we see right away he's in the time trial tuck position, and when he comes up to the first obstacle here on Stage 4, when he starts going up the climb, Remco Evenepoel looks marvelous. He's catching riders right away, and you see him in the TT position as he's going up the climb. And folks, I already told you this climb is 8.5%. I know he's in the TT position when it starts to flatten out and step up a little bit, but the Belgium kid is flying. There's no doubt about it. He goes up and over the climb, drops down the descent where speeds are as fast as 75 and 80 kilometers an hour. And when he comes into the first time check, he's 30 seconds up on the American rider Jorgenson. For sure, right now, when we see Jorgenson, he's got a little bit of smile on his face because it's 30 seconds faster, and we're talking about 10 kilometers of riding so far. There's 7 kilometers left, and the Belgium kid's got his helmet tucked down tight between his 2 fists right there on the TT position, with his visor basically resting on his 2 thumbs right there as he's holding a beautiful position. He comes into 1K to go. There's a speed bump there. Comes out of the TT position, hits the speed bump, going Mach speed. You see the bike kick just a little bit, but he holds it upright, no problem. Continues into the U-turn, just under a K to go with 2 left turns. As he's coming through the second left to complete the U-turn, you see his pedal strokes start going back with power on the pedal. And as he comes along the side there of the river, the drainage there coming off the hillside, you know Remco Evenepoel's flying. Comes into the last 400 meters to go. He's up on time and it's showing green all the way to the finish as he crosses the line 38 seconds faster than the time of Matteo Jorgenson. This puts Remco Evenepoel in the hot seat. Now, we know there's still some more favorites out there because Jonas Vingegaard from Visma Lease Bike, as I told you, is the hot-handed favorite here to possibly win Dauphiné and today's Stage 4. But we go back and start looking at the time checks from Jonas Vingegaard. When he came through the first time check, he's 11 seconds back from Remco Evenepoel. He keeps powering on the pedals, but he's dropping time all the way into the finish to come back 20 seconds down on Remco Evenepoel when he crosses the finish lines on today's Stage 4. Now, Tadej Pogacar, how is he looking out there? We go back and look at the Slovenian as he leaves the ramp. We see the countdown. He drops down the ramp, starts putting power to the pedals. We start looking at Tadej Pogacar going up the climb as he's taking a drink out of his water bottle, and you see him in the bullhorns there, and he's not in the TT position. I backed the film up, show you Jonas Vingegaard that's going up this climb right now at 8.5%. Jonas Vingegaard was out of the saddle, throwing down. I go back again and we see Remco Evenepoel where he's in the TT position. Now you understand what I'm getting at when you start looking at Tadej Pogacar. It's not looking as aerodynamic and as fluid as Tadej Pogacar from UAE Team Emirates is climbing up this 8.5% climb in the bullhorns here, not going as fast, looking at least as Remco Evenepoel and Jonas Vingegaard were. We drop down the descent. Tadej Pogacar comes off the descent, but is still dragging down to the bottom. And we see the time check go red for the Slovenian rider. He's going to have to make up some time as he crosses the first time check, 30 seconds down on Remco Evenepoel. Now, Remco Evenepoel knows right now that he's got a magnificent time, and winning the stage doesn't seem so questionable to us fans sitting on the Chesterfield when you see the Slovenian Tadej Pogacar 30 seconds down. The Slovenian from UAE Team Emirates to keep pulling on the pedals. He's not looking as fluid and as magnificent as what we saw from Remco Evenepoel and what we saw from Jonas Vingegaard. Looked quite spectacular on the TT bike on today's Stage 4 too. But we see Tadej Pogacar coming into the final 400 meters, and once the clock turns red, we know right now that Tadej Pogacar is going to have to make up some time in the later mountain stages, but just how much? As we see the Slovenian cross the finish line, he's 48 seconds behind Remco Evenepoel for a magnificent drop here on Stage 4 in 17.4 kilometers for the Slovenian from Tadej Pogacar, UAE Team Emirates. Now, we still got some of the other guys, the original break of yesterday's Stage 3, 13 riders that were in that break, but we got at least 4 or 5 that have a shot of putting himself into the race leader's yellow jersey. And we want to highlight, of course, Matthew van der Poel for sure because he's 29 seconds down on the stage. But when he left the ramp and he comes into the first time check, guys, he's 47 seconds back. So Matthew van der Poel is not getting himself in the race leader's yellow jersey or winning the stage. We'll see the Alpecin de Koenig rider cross the finish line 1 minute and 1 second back from Remco Evenepoel's time. We start looking at the next rider, Lipowitz. The cameras did not find Lipowitz leaving the ramp, and they didn't find him early in the stage, but late in the stage, he's at about 18 minutes and 30 seconds, but he's got about 4 kilometers to go. As Lipowitz crosses the line, he's going to be down on the time from Remco Evenepoel at 56 seconds to put himself into 5th place, but he loses the race leader's yellow jersey by 4 seconds to Remco Evenepoel. Okay, we start looking at some other riders, and you got to highlight, of course, Ivan Romeo wearing the race leader's yellow jersey when he left the ramp. As Ivan Romeo has gotten out there and powered on the pedals, when he crossed the first time check, he's 106 down on Remco Evenepoel. So later in the stage, for sure, while I was watching Ivan Romeo, I thought he had no chance of the race leader's yellow jersey, but Ivan Romeo had done damage control in the second half of the course to come into the finish, giving us a little bit of a drama right here as the race leader's yellow jersey. The time won't actually turn red for the general classification GC battle for race of the yellow jersey until about 150 meters, 100 meters to go, where at that point in time, we know that Ivan Romeo is not going to keep the race leader's yellow jersey because he's going to cross the line 1 minute and 25 seconds back from Remco Evenepoel, and he's about 9 seconds off of the race leader's yellow jersey. So not only does he win the stage, but he's going to drop to about 3rd on the general classification because Lipowitz is 2nd on the general classification at 4 seconds behind Remco Evenepoel, who put on a magical display here on stage 4. That's wearing the race leader's yellow jersey. Now you see Remco Evenepoel warming down while he's supposed to be sitting in the hot seat, and he's celebrating after the race leader's yellow jersey finished up today's race, because to his surprise, he knows now he's the race leader here at Dauphiné after stage 4. And of course, to his surprise, he put massive amount of time of 48 seconds into Tadej Pogacar and 20 seconds into Jonas Vingegaard. So when we start looking at the general classification with Remco Evenepoel in the race leader's yellow jersey, you got to start asking yourself, can Soudal Quickstep control this race for the next 4 stages? Tomorrow looks like what could be a breakaway stage, but remember, if Soudal Quickstep's not super strong, the sprinter teams don't seem like they'll control tomorrow's stage because it's way too lumpy and bumpy at the end of tomorrow's stage. So Soudal Quickstep won't get help from the sprinter teams, and if they can't keep the group close enough, then that means other teams won't jump into play into the party there of pulling with Soudal Quickstep on stage 5. Don't even get me started about stages 6, 7, and 8 here at Dauphiné, because Soudal Quickstep only have Max Schachmann and Per Pintre that can climb into the mountain stages here at Dauphiné. So Soudal Quickstep, Remco Evenepoel, I believe he showed us that he has some remarkable form here at Dauphiné. When you look at stage 1, the bridge that he made going across to Tadej Pogacar and Jonas Vingegaard along with Mathieu van der Poel up there, that was a magnificent bridge. The individual time trial win here today, okay, he's a time trial specialist, but I agree with his interviews where he says that he is the lightest and fittest that he's come in here to Dauphiné, and he believes that his numbers are remarkable. I think he'll be able to climb with Jonas Vingegaard and Tadej Pogacar here at the Dauphiné, but I don't know if his team, Soudal Quickstep, can control the race. So these next 4 stages, the sharks are in the water. Blood's in the water. Sharks are going to be everywhere trying to get up the road and get in breaks. And when you look at Visma Lease Bike, this is the team I want to point out. 4 riders at 2 minutes. We have, of course, Jonas Vingegaard, that's close on the general classification at about 16 seconds back. And then you have Jorgenson, who's 1 second back from Tadej Pogacar at 39 seconds back. And then you start looking at Ben Toulet and you start looking at Sepp Kuss, the second American of those top 4. Those 2 are only 2 minutes back on general classification. So if breaks are going for the next 4 stages, Visma Lease Bike have at least 3 guys they can put in the early move, and then that means Jonas Vingegaard can sit back there as Soudal Quickstep has to do the work because he has teammates up there that are either satellite riders or they're riders to put pressure on Soudal Quickstep to have to do big time pulling. You look over at UAE team members, they're not stacked with a ton of team strength here after stage 4 either, because Sivakov's the only one at about 2 minutes on the general classification that can help put threat on Soudal Quickstep. So look for blood in the water on these next 4 stages, and even tomorrow's stage, if you're talking about one of the Visma Lease Bike riders getting into a big break again, they can all of a sudden get that 2 minutes back and have all kinds of pressure on Soudal Quickstep. And I can't guarantee you that Soudal Quickstep have the manpower to be able to control each one of these stages going forward here at Dauphiné. So like and subscribe. The tactical battles are going to be magnificent. I think we have something again like we saw at the Giro d'Italia on stage 20 where tactical battles are going to come into play. We know Tadej Pogacar and Remco Evenepoel kind of like each other. Jonas Vingegaard has not always been best of friends with those 2 guys. So will Tadej Pogacar help Remco Evenepoel if it's Jonas Vingegaard going up the road? We might see some kind of chemistry between those 2 riders, but I don't think we're going to see Tadej Pogacar racing for second place on the general classification, much like with Garrett has on stage 20. So Remco Evenepoel has to have some marvelous legs, which I believe we saw today after stage 4. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next edition for stage 5 at Dauphiné 2025 real soon.